In this video, we're diving into the compelling story of Herodias, her marriage to Herod Antipas, and the role she played in the death of John the Baptist. This tale is one of ambition, manipulation, and moral complexity, as it brings to light how unchecked desires can lead to devastating consequences. We'll explore the tensions between Herod's respect for John and his moral failings, the influence of Herodias, and the consequences of their choices, as revealed in both the Bible and historical sources. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more insightful biblical stories and lessons that resonate with our modern lives. Now, let's delve into the unfolding drama of Herodias' ambition, John the Baptist's boldness, and Herod's tragic decisions. Herodias was the wife of Herod Antipas, a ruler of Galilee and Perea. However, before marrying Herod Antipas, she had been married to his half-brother, Herod Philip. Their relationship violated Jewish law because she married her husband's brother while her first husband was still alive, which was considered unlawful according to Jewish teachings. Leviticus 18:16. John the Baptist, a well-known prophet at the time, boldly condemned this unlawful marriage. He publicly criticized Herod and Herodias, stating that their union was sinful. Herodias took deep offense at John's words and held a grudge against him, leading to her desire for revenge. Although Herod Antipas was displeased by John's condemnation, he had a certain level of respect and fear for John, recognizing him as a righteous and holy man. Herod even liked to listen to John's preaching, though he was disturbed by it. Herod did not want to execute John because he feared public backlash, knowing John was widely regarded as a prophet by the people. So he had John imprisoned, but kept him alive. Herodias, on the other hand, was determined to silence John the Baptist. She saw her opportunity when Herod threw a lavish birthday banquet for the leading officials and nobles of Galilee. During the feast, Herodias' daughter, Salome, performed a seductive dance that greatly pleased Herod and his guests. Caught up in the excitement, Herod made a reckless vow in front of his guests. He promised Salome anything she wanted, up to half his kingdom. Prompted by her mother, Salome requested the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Herod Antipas's respect for John the Baptist highlights the complexity of his character. On one hand, he recognized John's righteousness and truthfulness. John's reputation as a prophet and a man of God was widely acknowledged, and even Herod, despite his political power, was not immune to this. He often listened to John, perplexed by his teachings, yet drawn to them. This respect suggests that Herod was not entirely corrupt. He had a sense of what was morally right, but lacked the strength to follow through on it. However, despite this respect, Herod's deeper flaw lay in his inability to act on his convictions. His fear of public opinion and his need to maintain his image were stronger than his sense of justice. When Herod made a rash promise to Salome, offering her anything she wanted, he set himself up for a moral dilemma. His impulsive words, spoken in front of influential guests, became a trap. When Salome, under her mother Herodias' guidance, asked for the head of John the Baptist, Herod faced a critical choice. Here, Herod's moral weakness becomes evident. He was deeply troubled by the request, knowing it was wrong. However, his fear of looking weak or dishonorable in front of his guests overpowered his sense of justice. This moment reveals how Herod was enslaved by his own pride and reputation. He could not bear the thought of going back on his word or appearing weak, even if it meant condemning an innocent man to death. This fear of losing face and the prioritization of his image over doing what was right showcases the danger of pride in positions of power. Herod's concern with how others perceived him outweighed his respect for John's righteousness. Instead of standing up to the manipulation of Herodias and defending John's life, Herod chose to maintain his public image. His weakness wasn't just moral indecisiveness, it was a deeper issue of valuing appearance and honor over truth and justice. Herod's actions exemplify the tragic consequences of allowing external pressures to dictate internal decisions. By prioritizing his social and political standing, he sacrificed his integrity and contributed to an act of profound injustice. His decision also highlights how power, when unanchored from moral courage, can lead to catastrophic outcomes. While Herod respected John, his inability to stand up against the manipulations of Herodias and his own guests revealed his deeper flaws: a fragile ego, the fear of losing public favor, and a failure to act on what he knew to be right. This underscores the importance of moral courage, especially for those in positions of authority, as well as the destructive potential of prioritizing image over integrity. Herod was distressed by the request, but because he had made the promise publicly, he felt trapped by his words and his pride. Not wanting to lose face in front of his guests, Herod reluctantly ordered John's execution. John the Baptist was beheaded in prison, and his head was presented to Salome, who then gave it to her mother, Herodias. John's disciples took his body and gave him a proper burial. Herod Antipas, though initially relieved, would later be haunted by guilt and fear. Some sources suggest that Herod believed Jesus to be John the Baptist raised from the dead, which only increased his sense of dread. John the Baptist's boldness in confronting the immoral behavior of Herod Antipas and Herodias is one of the most striking aspects of his ministry. Despite the risk involved, he publicly condemned their unlawful marriage, fully aware that such criticism of a ruler could lead to severe consequences. This act of calling out sin in high places underscores John's unwavering commitment to God's truth, as he prioritized divine law over personal safety or political consequences. What drove John was not a desire for personal gain or political influence, but a profound commitment to God's truth. His message was clear: God's moral law applies to everyone, and no one, not even a king, is above it. In this sense, John was not just criticizing Herod's immoral actions, but also affirming the sovereignty of God over all human affairs. He was reminding Herod, and anyone who would listen, that God's commands are not negotiable, and that earthly power does not exempt anyone from divine accountability. John's courage in standing up for what was right, regardless of the consequences, is a powerful reminder of the cost of discipleship. His ministry was not one of compromise or diplomacy. It was rooted in the conviction that God's truth must be proclaimed, even in the face of opposition. John's example teaches that faithfulness to God sometimes requires confronting injustice and immorality, even if doing so puts one's life at risk. The Bible does not directly record what happened to Herodias after the beheading of John the Baptist. However, her story is indirectly concluded through her connection to Herod Antipas. After John's death, Herodias continues to play a background role in the Gospels, but her personal fate isn't mentioned. However, external historical sources provide more context to the eventual downfall of Herod and Herodias. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, in his work Antiquities of the Jews, provides more details about what happened to Herod Antipas and Herodias after John the Baptist's execution. Herodias' ambition played a significant role in the downfall of both herself and Herod Antipas. She was not satisfied with Herod's title as tetrarch, ruler of a portion of a province. Her brother, Herod Agrippa I, had been given the title of king by the Roman Emperor Caligula, and Herodias, driven by envy, pushed Herod Antipas to seek the same title. Influenced by Herodias' ambitions, Herod Antipas traveled to Rome to petition Emperor Caligula for the title of king. However, Herod Agrippa, Herodias' brother, worked behind the scenes to discredit Herod Antipas. Agrippa accused Herod Antipas of plotting against the emperor and stockpiling weapons. Caligula believed Agrippa and exiled Herod Antipas instead of granting him more power. As a result, Herod Antipas was stripped of his position and his lands and was exiled to Lugdunum, modern-day Lyon, France, a remote region in Gaul. Herodias, who had been the instigator of this ambitious pursuit, followed him into exile. Despite being given the option to remain in her brother Agrippa's court and live in luxury, Herodias chose to stay with Herod Antipas. They lived out their days in exile, far removed from the political power they had once enjoyed. Herodias' ambition and manipulation led not only to the death of John the Baptist, but also to the eventual downfall of herself and Herod Antipas. Her desire for greater power, prestige, and control ultimately resulted in her own disgrace and banishment. Herodias' story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked ambition, pride, and manipulation. In the end, despite her influence and power in the courts of Herod Antipas, she lost everything due to her insatiable desire for more.